Add Antoine Winfield Jr. to the growing list of injuries. That and more on today's episode of Locked On Bucs.
You are Locked On Buccaneers, your daily Tampa Bay Buccaneers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, and welcome into this episode of Locked On Bucs, your daily podcast covering the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I want to thank you for making Locked On Bucs your first listen review every day. Don't forget you can subscribe or follow for free on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. And of course, you can follow along on Twitter. I am James Yarcho at JYarcho_Bucs. He is Evan Klosky at eKlosky WTSP. We are your credentialed members of the media covering your Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Of course, Evan is on 10 Tampa Bay, 10tampabay.com, and the 10 Tampa Bay Plus app. And I am here with you 5 days a week along with the everydayers. And I want to thank you for your continued support of the show. One of the ways you can support the show is become a Locked On Bucs insider. You're going to get news, rumors, updates, general thoughts, one-on-one conversations with me via text message. Go to joinsubtext.com/LockedOnBucs or click the link in the show notes to become an insider today. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Football season is around the corner. Visit the FanDuel app today and start planning your futures bets now. I got a couple of those in there. All right, who has been impressive and who hasn't, and what we're watching for in the next preseason game. That's all coming up in a little bit. I want to start today off by talking about the practice the Bucs had in Pittsburgh, and we're going to start that off with Antoine Winfield Jr. sitting out with injury. He joins a long list of players that have gotten hurt since the start of camp: Benjamin Morrison, Trey Palmer, David Walker, Anthony Walker Jr., Cam Johnson, Rashad White, not to mention Chris Godwin, who has yet to practice, and Tristan Wirfs, who we know is probably missing the beginning of the season. But Evan, at what point do we start to hit the panic button a little bit with all of these injuries just piling up?
Yeah, I mean, I'm in between right now. Panic button is at like a 3. So I'm not panicking at all. Do I like it? I do not. And you get concerned a little bit in a sense of like, hey, we're going to have all these veterans sit out, be ready for week 1. And are they going to be fully ready week 1? Are they going to be geared up, body in shape? Trying to go from 0 to 100 is not great for the body, right? You want your body to progressively go through more intensity as you go, which is the whole point of training camp, right? I don't need you to do a lot during the start, but as we go forward, you want to get into a preseason game, you want to get hit, you want to go through the practice. Like, Antoine knows the whole defense in his sleep. That's not the issue. He knows exactly what to do. He's going to know his role. But for a guy who has been constantly injured in his career outside of his rookie season and his all-pro season, like, it's not good for us to hear, hey, he's got a lower leg injury, and then like Ian Rappaport essentially put together like, oh, they're focusing on week 1, so he should be fine for that. It's like, that's 3 weeks away. Like, are we talking like a 1 to 2 week type of injury? Like, what are we discussing here? So, it gets to the point where it's like, I know you have a lot of continuity, but you got to be on the field to feel it and continue moving forward. So, long story short, Antoine's a veteran. He's been there. He's done that. So if he's ready week 1, that's all I care about. That's all fans really care about, right? I don't need him trudging through some little injury that is going to affect him entering week 1. But it is, Antoine, Tez, Cade was out for a little bit, Trey Palmer, Rashad has a groin thing. How many more players are we going to stack up? And you're seeing them. They're just adding random depth pieces because they need the practice. And that's not good on good anymore. That's just we're surviving to advance. So, the joint practice is really important in Pittsburgh because you're going to get some of that good on good, and you're going to have someone else who actually can field a squad that can go up against your ones and all that stuff. But Yeah, I think it's pretty important to at least have a really good day at that joint practice, and then whatever game the Buccaneers starters are going to play in, that's going to be important too. And then from there, I mean, it's game time for this team. I mean, you have that like week off, and then boom, you're preparing for the Falcons. So there are a few days left in the calendar that I think are super meaningful for this team, and that joint practice is one of them.
We are going to talk about the joint practices coming up in a little bit, but like you said, these injuries keep stacking on top of each other, and you go all the way back. Every team to ever win the Super Bowl has had incredible injury luck, and the Bucs haven't even reached the regular season yet, and they're having tremendously bad luck with all of these injuries. Now, you know, knock on wood.
I would take it a step, like tremendously bad luck. Like really, David Walker is the issue. Like those are the injuries you have to avoid. The David Walkers, the out for season. Like they're going to miss Tristan for 2 to 4 weeks. Godwin's going to work his way back. We knew that one baked in last season. Everything else seems manageable right now. So they haven't. If it's just this, that's why I said my panic level is a 3. Because if it's just these little things, you're okay, right? If it's just, but last year entering the home opener, Kalijah Kancey gets hurt in the last 10 minutes of practice and he's out for 5 weeks. Like that, right. That can happen. So those you have to avoid.
And to your other point, it takes time to ramp your body up for, playing regular season games. So my concern right now, luckily, again, knock on wood, that these outside of David Walker haven't been, major season ending, but these seem like the types of injuries that are those lingering injuries that we saw them dealing with last year with, Zion McCollum in and out, Jamel Dean always gets hurt, but Antoine, lingering injuries all season long. It just continues to snowball. So hopefully you're right. Hopefully they can continue to manage it, and it's nothing, super serious. Put Baker and Bucky and Evans and Ibuka and the entire offensive line in a bubble for heaven's sake, and Levante as well, because I don't know if they can even field a decently competitive team at the rate that they're losing guys, if it continues the way that it has.
I would be surprised if like Levante or Mike Evans plays in a preseason game. So, like Todd says, I'm going to play all the starters. He said that last year. And then we get down there for the game, and Mike comes out of the locker room in street clothes. Levante comes out in street clothes. So just no, I do expect some veteran treatment out there for a few of the guys, even when all the starters are playing. And Todd's going to say it like that. So just we're becoming it's year 4 now with Todd. We're speaking his language. We're understanding him a little bit more when he's in front of the microphone. And what he says is not always what he means. And certainly I expect like guys like that to not be playing in the preseason.
Well, we're going to find out what other ones, because what are we looking for this weekend against the Steelers? That is coming up next on today's episode of Locked On Bucs, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Sports are in full swing, and whether you're all about baseball under the lights, golf on the green, or high-stakes soccer action, FanDuel is the best way to make every game even more exciting. You're already following the action, so why not make it a little more thrilling? With FanDuel, you can get in on the game while your friends are getting sunburned at the beach. FanDuel is super easy to use and always where I go to place my parlays for just about every sport, but I also love futures bets and trying to predict champions across all of sports. Right now, the Buccaneers are plus 105 to win the NFC South, minus 144 to make the playoffs, and plus 2,900 to win the Super Bowl. That's behind teams like the Bengals, Vikings, Packers, Niners, Chargers, Commanders, and Rams. New to FanDuel, new customers can bet just $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if your first bet wins. Open the FanDuel app today or visit FanDuel.com to get started. Thank you again for making Locked On Bucs your first listen or view every day. For your second listen, check out Locked On Bets. Betting experts Lee Sterling and Kevin Rogers have daily MLB locks and can't miss football futures. Find Locked On Bets on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. All right, joint practice with the Steelers on Thursday, then the second preseason game Saturday night. It sounds like there will be more starters playing in this one, although Todd Bowles made it a point to say that it will not be all of the starters. Evan, which starters do you feel are still going to be held out in this one as well? I know you just mentioned Levante David, but who else, from the starting 22 do you see having a seat this weekend?
Yeah, I mean, it's complicated because normally I would say they're going to play their starters week 3. They play the Bills. They play the Bills in a regular season. I would still argue most of the starters are going to play next week at home because this week you are going through a joint practice. So I don't know why you're going to set up your starters to go through the gauntlet Thursday when they're in pads, and then you're going to put them back in pads on Saturday. Doesn't pass the smell test. So I feel like you're going to see a similar set of characters Saturday night that you saw last weekend inside Ray J, and Jalen McMillan, Emeka Ibuka, they might get a few more snaps. Servassier Dennis out there, right? He's got to get used to the green dot. Jacob Parrish is another guy we expect out there, right? Then we're taking a look at, pretty much all the rookies outside of David Walker. We want to get a sense for them. So really, when you're looking at the players that you want to look at, the secondary depth is important. Still trying to figure out who's going to win those battles because it's probably maybe like one spot available in that group. Loved what we saw from the linebackers in game 1, especially Nick Jackson. That's probably for me what I'm most interested in week 2 is okay, Jackson and Bullock, with Jackson being the star next to his name, are you going to repeat that another week? Was last week a one-time thing, or do we got something here, right? Because I think there's a linebacker, and Todd alluded to it. I think they want to carry a linebacker on the team, and they want to bring the other guy onto the practice squad. Between both of them, I expect them to be a part of the squad in its totality entering this season, but who gets what position is up for grabs. So we're looking at that. And then also really, just kind of keeping an eye on that offensive line. I was watching Elijah Klein at center. I think that he's still learning there. And at least when I watch Elijah Klein, it's not anything to do with his abilities or what, any of that stuff. It's like, it reminded me of watching Hainsey, where sometimes just getting a little bit overmatched there in the middle. And it's a really tough position to be in when you're a little bit smaller, even though he can eat me for lunch. I'm just saying in general. So I love Elijah Klein as far as guard center, having that interior backup option, but can he be the true backup center on this team, or are they going to have to put Bredesen over there and then put him into that guard spot, right? That's what we're trying to figure out. So those are just a little things sure, it's exciting to watch Emeka and Jalen. I kind of know what they are. Jalen, we certainly have watched all of last year. He's not going to do anything that surprises me this year against backups, maybe on the other side for Pittsburgh. We'll see. And then Emeka, getting him snaps are great, but I also he's so polished that I really don't have he's not going to swing me one way or the other with what he does. So that's kind of what I'm looking at.
Well, and if I remember correctly, it seemed like McMillan and Ibuka came off the field when Rashad got hurt, and they were like, okay, that's enough of those guys. You get out of there.
That was also a 17-play drive.
Yeah.
So I think they might have been on a little a 10. I think they got 10 snaps-ish. They might have been on a 10-snap limit.
Yeah.
But, certainly, if that was the reason, I don't blame them either.
Well, and something that I want to ask you here, and
I want to say Charlie Heck also got pulled mid-drive as well. So
yes.
That's why I lean towards these guys are going to play 10 snaps or whatever it was, and like that's going to be that.
Well, and I thought, Elijah Klein performed pretty well at center, considering, he is learning the new position again. I mean,
yeah, and I just want to say, like, I like Elijah Klein a lot. I'm just saying, like, the fact is, I'm thinking about, hey, starting on Sundays for someone who's injured, what are my thoughts? And it's not going to be like plug and play. There is a noticeable difference between him and Barton. Not a fair comparison, but that's the comparison on the team. So I certainly feel comfortable with him playing on the line. If he had to pinch hit at center, I don't think the entire operation falls apart. But, are you going to be able to run up the middle as effectively as you want? Not quite sure. So, those are – I just want to provide a little clarity.
Yeah, 100%. Now, one of the things that I'm really going to be focused on compared to what I was going to be watching for heading into the first preseason game, in this one, I'm really focused on Chris Brazwell, and I don't know how you felt about his performance, but when you go back to what you were watching in the Titans game to kind of build off of that, what are some of the different things that you're really going to be hyper-focused on this one? And is it somebody like Brazwell who should have performed much better than I think he did? I put Rakim Jarrett in that category as well.
Yeah, I mean, those – look, that wide receiver battle is very important, right? I mean, I love Ryan Miller, and it's nothing to do with his receiving. That man knows how to block. He is like no disrespect to Ryan Miller. He's a poor man's Emeka in some ways, where I love that he can block. He's going to be in the right position. He's rarely going to make MEs, and he just gets the job done. He's not flashy. His ceiling's pretty low, but the floor is high, which is different from Emeka, who has a very high ceiling. But my point is, like, Ryan Miller plays the game the right way. I like Ryan Miller, and I liked him last year too when he had to step up in duty. But yeah, with Brazwell, jury's still out. The Buccaneers are still punching a lot of words at us, saying, Bowles, like, I thought he did very well. We sure about that? We sure about that? I mean, look, Brazwell's out there, last year, right? I mean, you've heard me for years now since Shaq Barrett kind of wasn't the what he post Achilles injury, we'll say. You've heard me complain about the edge, right? And getting pressure off the edge and stuff. So if you don't have Hassan out there, if you don't have Yaya out there, who is helping Brazwell? You're turning Brazwell in a preseason game into edge 1 when he's edge 4 on the team. I think it's legitimate for people to say, well, this is a second-round pick. He should be better. No arguments from me. But remember that his role on this team is number 4. I mean, David Walker was maybe going to compete with Brazwell for that spot, but now Brazwell cemented into it. So, it's tough when he's a rotational piece getting snaps in all the roles. It's like watching a bad left-handed watching a lefty hit against left-handed pitching who can't hit lefty, right? Mm-hmm. He's really good against righties. He's not supposed to hit against lefties. No wonder why he went 0 for 4 with three strikeouts. This is not his wheelhouse. So that's, I just want to say it's more situational. Like, Brazwell is going to be put in situations during the regular season that more are built for his strengths. And right now he's just playing all the situations. And he's not great at all the situations. And he's not a 1. So it doesn't surprise me that he didn't flash off the page. Do I want to see more out of him? Absolutely. But I also understand his role on the team. And I also understand the draft position he was selected in. And I think it's fair to say that people want more. That's totally fair. I'm just kind of presenting the other side where don't expect Brazwell to play more than like 15 snaps in a perfect season where everyone's healthy, right? 15 to 20 snaps tops for this guy.
All right. Well, who's hot and who's not? That's coming up next on today's episode of Locked On Bucs. Episode is presented by Yahoo Fantasy. It's the best time of the year. NFL kickoff is almost here, and that means fantasy football season is back in full swing. This year, Yahoo Fantasy is turning things up with a fantasy football experience like never before. I am playing on Yahoo Fantasy, and you should too, whether you're a first-timer or a veteran making your millionth league. To celebrate 28 years of fantasy football greatness, Yahoo Fantasy is dropping 28 big new features over 28 days throughout August. To kick it off, they just dropped Yahoo Fantasy Guillotine Leagues, a killer new way to play fantasy football on Yahoo, where the lowest scoring team gets eliminated each week until there's just one team left standing. With the season around the corner, now's the time to get your league together and give this new mode a try. If you're into the classics, you can still play in head-to-head private leagues or join a public league. Stay tuned for more killer announcements and start playing Yahoo Fantasy Football now at yahoofantasy.com/lockedonnfl. Wrapping things up here on a WTSP edition of Locked On Bucs, and we are about halfway through training camp now. So, Evan, I'm curious to know who has jumped out to you as the player or players that have impressed you the most up to this point.
In just training camp in general, not the past week?
I mean, however you want to clarify it, since the start of training camp, since the start of mandatory mini camp over the last week.
Yeah, start of camp. I mean, Emeka Egbuka has been great. He's been everything that the team thought he would be. I really love what Vita Vea looks like. He is once again in shape. We saw what he was last year playing at a similar weight, and I just think he's going to be the same, if not a little bit more dominant than he was last year, which is a Pro Bowl caliber player, right? Love Vita. I've been impressed with Bryce Hall. I get it. Fifth string cornerback, but considering they had to dig so deep into their depth last season, it's good when I feel confident about the fifth stringer. Otherwise, collectively, the defense and the emphasis on turnovers. Like, I don't think it's a coincidence, people, that in the first preseason game, they found 3 interceptions. Like, when you practice it, when you preach it, when you're hammering it home, it's going to happen on, right now, Saturdays. It's going to happen on Sundays. When you keep doing it and you make it important, it's going to add up, right? Those are how you stack days. So I don't think it's a coincidence. They got 3 picks. And I think that's, to me, a tip of the cap of the entire defense. Because Nick Jackson had an interception. It wasn't like he snatched it out of the air himself. That was Bullock tipping it. So I think those are the things that stand out the most to me. I think generally speaking, I feel a lot more confident in the defense than I thought I would entering the preseason. And I feel like the offense has a little ways to go. I feel a little bit disappointed in what I've seen from them, thinking that, I know they don't have Wirfs, I know they don't have Godwin, but it just seems like they're a little bit off. They're a little bit not there yet. So not anything alarming. Typically in training camp, defenses do better than offenses. That's at least how I see it. Joint practice is certainly the same way because offenses aren't game planning. So sometimes you're running a play and it's into the wrong thing, but it's like, we haven't looked at any film. We're like, we really buzzed through it and that's that. But yeah, I think that's kind of where I'm at, generally speaking.
Well, and, with the defense winning the day in training camp, it's the Bucs ones versus the Bucs ones. You go back to last week against the Titans, the Bucs offense was really, really good. Now, granted, you were going against the Titans, so I think it'll also be telling when they get to go up against this Steelers defense on Thursday. Does the Bucs offense beat the Steelers defense? I think that'll be a little bit more telling. When you're facing another squad.
I think that's a good point too. Like, the Titans are a bad team. They're going to be real bad this year. So, and in some parts with in the second half, the Bucs backups buried the Titans backups. So it just tells me that the Bucs are deeper, but it's not like the Bucs rolled on through I think time of possession wise, yes, and the Titans never really threatened offensively speaking. They did have that one touchdown, but that was a total misalignment mistake from Jacob Parrish, which is exactly what the preseason is for. But ultimately, right, I think you look at the offense, good time of possession, you move the ball, but you had a turnover in the red zone, you kicked a couple of field goals, you got to finish those drives. So certainly some meat left on the bone, and now you're going up to a team. I like how the progression of this preseason is a team we know that it's probably not going to make the playoffs, a team that's probably right there, like wild cardish team, and then you get the Bills, who are a Super Bowl contender.
Yeah, well, I mean, we all know the Steelers are going 9-8. That's just what they do. Their ceiling is 9-8. Their floor is 9-8. They're going to go 9-8. All right, Evan, on the flip side, and again, you can go over the course of the last week, you can go all the way back to mandatory minicamp up to this point, but who's been kind of disappointing, or at least, a player or two that you expected more from by this point in the preseason?
Well, I don't know if disappointing is the right word. I am disappointed in the fact that Trey Palmer and Tez Johnson are both hurt. Both of them were supposed to battle for that punt returner position for that wide receiver spot. And we have no clarity on the situation. None. And that's a problem. That's a battle.
I didn't love Ibuka back there returning punts. I did not care for that at all.
No, I don't think that's a thing. I don't think it should be a thing. But I mean, they had, really they've been testing out Ibuka, Jalen McMillan. I think we might see a little bit of Garrett Green, who's been doing some of that stuff. They're just kind of like, he's raw. He's fun. He's a good practice squad candidate. I'm excited to see him. He's got some juice. The converted quarterback to wide receiver. But yeah, I mean, the thing is that Ibuka is probably third on the list at best behind Tez and Trey, but we don't know what they're doing. So that, I think, is probably the biggest disappointment. Not necessarily with them. It's the fact that they're injured, and even a guy like Cameron Johnson, who made the 53-man roster, he's hurt again. Writing's on the wall for him. You're not going to make the team if you're continuously injured. So, we'll try to slip them through. But so that's it. In the end, the disappointment is there are some guys who are injured who need to stand out, and you can't do that sitting on the sidelines.
Well, and luckily they did get Tez Johnson back earlier in the week, so he'll get to participate in this joint practice. Hopefully he stays healthy. We get to see him on Saturday night against the Steelers. But, I'm right there with you. It's the most disappointed I've been. Of course, I was disappointed in Jarrett's performance on Saturday and in Chris Brazwell's, but my biggest disappointments have come through injury. Benjamin Morrison, now Rachaad White, now Antoine Winfield Jr.
You mentioned Morrison's a really good one. You thought he was going to challenge Jamel Dean for his starting spot? Well, if you're going to be out for half a camp, you're going to be the number 3, and that's just going to be that. And eventually you'll be the 2 when Dean gets hurt. But, but the fact is
that's not in week 1 though, because he won't be ready for it.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see. With soft tissue, look, the Bucs they are very cautious with the soft tissue stuff. And we've seen that with Kalijah Kancey and his calf. I mean, with Kancey, they waited 5 weeks last season. They had to wait another 4 and a bye, I think, the previous season. So, with Morrison, we don't know the severity, but Cade Otton, they held out for 2 to 3 weeks. And so, if Morrison, they run through the same thing, he should be back I would imagine the week prior to the game week. But yeah, I mean, the only thing with Morrison is it just the conversation of you actually getting the number 2 corner position out the window. It's Janelle's. So that's what happens when you get hurt is you lose ground or you can't make up ground. So anything that they do, the gap just widens. So
yeah, it's disappointing for sure. Well, hopefully they get through the joint practice without any injuries. They get through the game on Saturday without any injuries. I'll be talking more about that in the coming days. Of course, I'll be back tomorrow to talk about all the things that went down at that joint practice and the inevitable kerfuffles that occur. The Titans and Falcons broke out into a couple of brawls at their joint practice. I don't know. I talked to my buddy who's a big Titans fan and said, what is it with your team picking fights with everybody? He goes, well, we got to be good at something. We're not good at football, so we might as well be good at fighting. Evan, let everybody know what you got going on over there at 10 Tampa Bay, 10tampabay.com, and the 10 Tampa Bay Plus app.
You can find me at eKlosky, WTSP, on Twitter. Love to engage. 10 Tampa Bay Plus. You can find my sportscasts at 6 and 11. Also have a fun one at 6:30 where we kind of take 3:30 to 40 minutes, 3:30 to 4 minutes, talking through topics for the day, what's been going on. And then also on 10 Tampa Bay Plus, check out the Ultimate Florida Sports Show, as we will talk all things Florida, certainly Bucs, Jags, Dolphins, but also things beyond. Shane McClanahan's out for the season. We'll discuss that. So we really kind of cover all of our bases for the Sunshine State. And, eventually here in a few weeks, we'll be talking about the Blitz coming up. And that will also be on 10 Tampa Bay Plus. So, we bring the Blitz back. It's a lot of work for you, boy, but we love doing it because we love football season, baby.
Yeah, the Blitz is always a good time. And, of course, I'm sure you're going to talk about how Amalie Arena is no longer Amalie. Benchmark International just doesn't roll off the tongue. But I did see a big contingency of Lightning fans on Twitter saying, you know what, we're just calling it the bench. From now on, it's just the bench. That I can deal with. The Trop, the bench. Okay, fine.
Yeah.
That's what we can call things. All right. Make sure you're checking out all that stuff that Evan is doing there on 10 Tampa Bay, 10tampabay.com, and the 10 Tampa Bay Plus app. Follow on Twitter at Locked On Bucs, at JYarcho_Bucs, at eKlosky WTSP. Make sure you're subscribed on YouTube with those notifications turned on, as well as wherever you get your podcasts. Become a Locked On Bucs insider. Go to joinsubtext.com/LockedOnBucs or click the link in the show notes. If you want to support the show, but you don't want to be an insider, it's real easy. Like this episode on YouTube and leave a 5-star review wherever you get podcasts. It does help other Buccaneers fans find the show. Hope you all have an absolutely outstanding day. Stay safe, stay healthy, fire the cannons. I want to thank you so much for joining us right here on Locked On Bucs, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.